Hello folks, many of you may have heard of Stardew Valley, which is conditionally a pixel farmer simulator. It turned out to be very popular and for good reason. Since Valley was a dream project, its creator Eric Barone, taking inspiration from Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing series, put his soul into it, and you can tell. He created its beautiful visual style, redrawing the characters over and over. He wrote its beautiful music, which conveys the atmosphere of each season and each place your character is in. He designed the gameplay, which includes not only growing potatoes and wheat, but also diving into the mine to get ore and slay monsters, fishing, which is not nearly relaxing, establishing friendships and beyond, and raising cattle. The game hit the taste of many players, including me. Eric Brown made a lot of money, and of course, the spiritual and ideological successors wasted little time to come out. One such successor and the most successful attempt to capture the magic of the Stardew Valley is My Time at Portia, developed and released in 2019 by Portia Games and published by Team 17, authors of the Worms series. Portia Games itself is only notable for an interesting mishap related to their previous game, Planet Explorers, a kind of open-world exploration sandbox with co-op and multiplayer functionality. Planet Explorers wasn't exactly the greatest game in the world. It was a test of the pen, but that's not the point. The point is that the servers crashed at one point and all the multiplayer code was lost. After a while they claimed that the code can't be restored, which means that there won't be multiplayer in the game at all. So they turned the game to free-to-play, stating that they are working on a sequel, and it will be even cooler and better. It's pretty amusing to bring this up now, because right now they are actually working on a sequel to Portia called My Time at Senrak, which should come out in early access. Well, someday. But it's not coming out yet, because the developer is from China and the Chinese authorities are preventing it from coming out. Otherwise, they're just ready to roll out. Clearly, Planet Explorers is unlikely to see a sequel, but in some ways My Time at Portia learned from the mistakes of Planet Explorers. No multiplayer in this game at all, haha. And that's what I decided to dedicate this review to. Now, My Time at Portia is a mix of action-adventure and farming simulation, set in a mild, post-apocalyptic world with most of the negative effects of the apocalypse are gone, and life is returning back to normal. So, the background of this game world itself isn't very extensive, but there are some things we do know. A long time ago, human civilization in this world was technologically advanced and could create a lot of different devices and gadgets designed to make people's life easier. In particular, as far as we can tell from the plot and dialogues, interplanetary travel was possible and artificial intelligence was universally used. This era has been called the Age of Corruption. During this era, an event called the Day of Calamity occurred. There is no specific information about it, but it is likely that there was a war with the use of nuclear and viral weapons. As some continents ceased to exist, new species of plants and animals appeared, mutations, and the world descended into darkness, i.e. nuclear winter, while those people who survived took shelter under the ground. There, those few remnants of humanity who had lost much of their knowledge and technology survived in the face of famine, cold and mutants for 230 years. At the time, two occupations were formed that became the part of the culture of the game world: the ruin divers and the masters. The first scavenged through the ruins in search of artifacts from the past, while the second created various contraptions out of it. So it went on until someone named Peach created a device that broke through the curtain of clouds and opened up the surface to the sunlight. This moment was dubbed the Day of the Bright Sun and marked the start of a new timeline. The game itself begins in the year 98 on the new calendar. The game, as is common in farming games, begins with the creation of your character. Options are scarce here. A few presets of male and female faces, a few sliders to adjust the character to your liking as much as possible. Yeah, you won't get the same freedom as in Oblivion, you know. By the way, all the options are available to both female and male characters. I do not know about anyone's taste, but I prefer the old-fashioned way, separated, so it's easier to navigate. After the character's creation we see a cutscene. Yes, you can say they are a feature of this game, and some of them are voiced even, but about that later. Which shows the protagonist's arrival to Portia, where he meets Presley, his father's old friend. Presley, being the head of the trade guild, brings us up to speed, shows us the house and asks us to complete a few tasks, which is essentially a tutorial on the basics of the game. Since Portia is clearly inspired by Stardew Valley, the gameplay is similar, but not a carbon copy. The most obvious difference, aside from the third-person gameplay, is that Portia is not a farming simulator. Yes, you can grow plants here, but only in planter boxes. The watering and scarecrow mechanics are completely absent. Fertilizer is the only thing needed. Although plants grow even without the fertilizer, the yield will be lower without it. The core point of the game is being a master here. You create items large and small for your own progression, guild commissions, and progression through the story. And there is one, in contrast to Stardew Valley, through which most of the mechanics and locations are unlocked. The commission system itself is simple as can be. Visit the commerce guild building on weekdays, preferably early in the morning and before Higgins, your main rival, and pick a commission, but only one at a time. Main and side ones are possible at the same time, depending on your taste and possibilities. The funny thing is a commission can be impossible at given stage, because there is no necessary equipment or resources, as I was stuck for 10 days with a quest for buckets, as wooden buckets are crafted, of course, out of iron bars, while iron itself can be only obtained in the second abandoned ruins, which are opened around in the second or third week. This is my subtle way of hinting to look up recipes before taking a commission, i.e. either run home to the workbench or look at the wiki. Completing commissions rewards you with money, the reputation of your workshop, and increase in the relationship with the client, and respectively the more difficult the task, the more profitable it is. Reputation increases the rank of your workshop from D to S and determines your overall position in workshop rankings at the end of the month or year. A high position in a chart is rewarded with money and other small items. By the way, the money is good, especially at the beginning of the game, given the fact that you will be in second or third place without much effort. Higgins will be first for a while, and it would be a hell of a job to retake him. In addition to these commissions, there will be other ways to make money. You can craft various small items and sell them in appropriate stores, especially stone tools. You'll have plenty of stones one way or another, believe me. Moreover, the price in stores is constantly fluctuating. Some days the price of items drops to 80% and some days it reaches 130, so it's best to keep the expensive items to yourself until the market price goes up. Thus, you will earn more with less. Farming can generate money in principle. All you need is to buy homemade planter boxes and put plant seeds in them, 1 seed per box. Nothing else is needed, even the seeds can be found when collecting animal feces, which, by the way, is better to collect. It is used to make fertilizer. Also, you get seeds with some chance when harvesting grown crops. In order to get a good yield, you need to apply fertilizer, and only plants satisfied throughout the growth cycle will give a doubled yield. Hence, feel free to craft or shop around for it. But again, unlike Stardew Valley, there is no watering here, and there is no penalty for its absence, and the plant will not die. Farming of course lacks depth, but it's still not a complete copy of Stardew Valley, you know. Another way to make money is fishing, and I'll tell you, a very good way. First of all, fishing here is little easier than in Stardew. Here you just have to move the mouse from side to side following the fish. Slowly press the left mouse button to pull the fish towards you, but not by holding, because when you fill the circle completely, the fish will break off. Secondly, you can catch fish as long as you have enough strength and worms for bait. Some meals can help you with the first, and the second can be bought from Sophie's ranch. Finally, the fish trade brings in a solid income. Goliath, for example, costs 350 gold and is caught regularly at the waterfall. At the same time, there is decent chance to catch an Emperor Goliath, which costs twice as much, and even a Goliath King, which costs 5000 gold pieces. With a good catch and a solid price on the market, you can easily make 10-15,000 gold a day, and that, my friends, is a good money for this game, especially at the very beginning. In this regard, a good help will be a spring event with a fishing contest. There are all sorts of fish to catch, plus you'll get prizes for doing it. In general, I seriously advise you to engage in fishing. At the earliest opportunity make a classic fishing rod, it will greatly simplify fishing, as well as build a couple of aquariums and breed keen types of fish. Just remember to feed them. Still, you do not have much choice. Fishing is almost the most profitable mechanic of the game, and given that the most of the time you will wait until your machinery and furnaces finish working, there will be plenty of time for fishing. I say this for a reason. The most tedious gameplay part of the game is waiting for raw materials to be processed into crafting materials. What's the point? Most items, large ones at the assembly station or small ones at the workbench, require various materials created by one of your machines. Furnaces melt your ore into ingots, grinders make a variety of tubes from those ingots, saws, respectively, cut those ingots into plates. In this regard, crafting one item can consist of 4 steps. You mine the ore in the ruins, melt it in the furnaces, cut into plates, and then only craft needed items. Naturally, none of this is done one-to-one, so each piece of the final product will cost you exponentially more resources and time. Now for context. You have uncovered a diagram of the industrial furnace. You want to build it. You need 5 steel plates for one such furnace. One steel plate is cut from 3 ingots of carbon steel in 2 hours and 24 minutes of game time. By the way, the game day from 7 am to 3 am lasts 15 minutes of real time. So, 1 ingot in a civilian furnace is done in 3 hours and 36 minutes, and only does it require iron ore, but also charcoal. Charcoal is basically a grilled wood, which needs to be charred as well. This affair will cost us in the same civilian furnace 48 minutes apiece. Now count the time, without the expense of obtaining the necessary raw materials. 15 pieces of coal, 12 game hours. 15 bars of steel, 54 hours. And finally the cutting of 5 plates, another 12 hours. So we have 3 days and 6 hours of game time, or almost 49 minutes of real time to get the plates for the one industrial furnace. Now, dear viewer, you are probably thinking, why the hell would I need all that boring stuff about numbers? This was a clear demonstration of how the game can and will drag on your time, so you better be ready for it. Of course, with your progression, discovering new technologies, building more facilities, some of the time cost will disappear, some will be reduced, yet the problem exists. Again, I counted this without the cost of resources. I have a mixed feeling about this situation. Sometimes this gameplay loop is kind of a drag, and sometimes it's kind of balanced with the passage of time, the change of days and seasons. Moving on to collecting resources. Basically, there are 3 categories of them. Appropriately, the gameplay loop of each category is different. The first is a collection of wood, which is mainly used to power the furnaces and building. It's simple. You see a tree, you cut it down with an axe. It's straightforward, but you have to do a lot of swinging, as the furnaces consume a lot of wood. The second category is ore mining. This one is a little trickier. Stone and simple ores, such as copper, can be obtained by picking stones on the surface by the city wall. Alternatively, you need to go to the ruins and dig there. The very mechanic is directly carried over from blind explorers. You swing your pickaxe and break voxel blocks with it, gaining resources depending on what's broken. But it's not just ore that poses interest in ruins. Various stuff from technological past is hidden there, like springs, oil and engines. Pieces of artifacts from which all sorts of furniture is assembled, increasing your characteristics when installed in a house. And importantly, data disks, the main driver of your technological progress. Entrance to the ruins is fee-based and lasts for a week. It's not that expensive, but it's better to find a time when you'll be hanging out there all day and night. It is worth noting, by the way, that you won't stay there for long anyway. Obviously, there is a lot of stuff and you can fit it all in your inventory, but that's not the only problem. The other issue is the stamina consumption during mining. Almost every action in the game consumes stamina, and especially at the very beginning you simply have to sleep often, since the only other way you can effectively regenerate stamina is eating food, which you won't have. Hence my advice, put and dry in rack, preferably 2. Get apples from trees, and after a while from the forest farm, and dry them. Simple and efficient, but very long. By and large, ruin diving is a very simple and meditative process that doesn't get annoying, at least not when you have a great stamina attribute and or lots of food with you. On a side note, as you dig through the ruins, you'll come across disks that have several uses in the game. Being data storage devices from the old world, you can trade farm stuff from them in a Church of Light, or give them to Peter for research. There, depending on the complexity of the diagram, you'll need to give 5, 10 or 20 disks, plus you can add more of them to speed up your research. The system is very simple, and even though you are not told what the result will be, the resulting diagrams will still follow a certain order, as there is no randomness there. And don't get ahead of yourself and give 20 disks in research straight at the start of the game. You won't be able to use the resulting diagram without the machines that are unlocked in the earlier and cheaper stages. The last category of loot is still the same junk from the past, but in decent quantities. To get it, you have to go to the hazardous ruins, which is a kind of equivalent of a mine from Stardew Valley. Very arbitrary, no doubt. Hazardous ruins is composed of levels which in turn are divided into floors. On each level, you need to kill all the enemies to proceed further, collecting resources along the way. At the top floor, you will find the boss, who you also need to kill. Once you eliminate him, you can either proceed to another level or go home. After that, you can order level farming in a civil core, convenient but costly in terms of money. The actual process of killing enemies, though, is mediocre at best. Mainly, you'll have to wield a sword, since firearms are forbidden and the Church of Light will hassle you for possessing one. Melee combat in this case is all about simple button mashing. Either you stunlock your enemy with hits or he stunlocks you. That's all, really. In other words, if there are several enemies and they surrounded you, you are probably fucked. But if they are all on one side, then they are fucked. There is no challenge to a skill unless the monsters are a dozen levels higher. The bosses are a bit more complicated in this regard, but they are still just as primitive. they have attack combos, they have different phases, Dark Souls of farm simulators, but they don't give any room for imagination. You approach, do combos, then dodge a strike. The sewage plant boss has a second phase that's completely blunt. He grabs his sprinkler and starts spraying you literally with shit, and all you have to do is run around in circles under his feet. It's genius, just genius. What's nice is that the enemies are not sponges for soaking up the damage, that is, they can easily be killed, according to your level and equipment of course. Well, even if you die, at least on a story boss, you'll just be returned to the arena next to the boss, while he himself, if you wounded him, will remain wounded. For children and game journalists, so to speak. Considering weapons, there isn't a lot of variety in the game really. We have swords, hammers, gloves and firearms. There is not much difference, the changes are mainly damage, appearance and the speed and range of weapons. For example, swords are balanced between damage, range and speed, gloves work fast and good for stun locks, but the range is low, and the hammers hit hard but slowly. Not a lot of nuances. Regarding firearms, it's a disappointment. I mean, yeah, the damage isn't bad, you can shoot with it from afar, it's auto-aimed, but it has no impact. It doesn't feel like a ranged weapon at all, more like a long fucking spear, and the Church of Light won't like you for using it, because it's an artifact of the Age of Corruption. And why the fuck would you want to use it? The sword is faster anyway. When I said that the Church of Light might not like you, I didn't mean that they cheat in your cereal, obviously, but you'd have a better relationship with them. And in Portia, just like in Stardew Valley, it's better to be friends with everyone. In fact, the system here is almost entirely copied from Stardew Valley, so if you've played it, you'll be fine. It's really quite simple. The town has residents and each one has its own, if I may say so, personality and needs. You will communicate with them, play rock paper scissors, give good gifts, and the relationship will grow. Each such action will increase the friendship bar, and the rank of a relationship will change accordingly. All this is done for a reason. Good relationships with some characters can make the game a lot easier. For example, Gale's friendship will lower the price of buying land, friendship with Albert and Gust will lower the price of construction and improvements to your estate, and Antoine makes it possible for you to earn more money for doing commissions. Naturally, you can have a romantic relationship, if there is enough affection, start dating and then get married. There are plenty of options here, and they are not tied to the gender of your character, so you can choose anyone according to your tastes. The very process of scoring these attachment points is a real damn chore though. The simplest and dumbest example is talking. Once a day you approach a character and talk. You get 1 or 2 as a skill, points. How many do you need for a full friendship bar? 1000 points. That's a big number. Sure, you can give gifts, they are worth about 15 points on average. You can fulfill wishes, which are worth a little bit more, go for a walk together, swing on swings, or have lunch. Outcome here depends on your actions. Doing commissions for a specific person also helps in this respect. Yet, your best ally is connections. Each character has his own good friends or family, and by raising the rank of relationship with them, the needed character will also like you more. It's a small thing, but it is nice. Still, even so, I repeat, building up good relationships is a wild chore and will require a lot of time. To help a player with establishing relationships with other characters and in other mechanics of the game, there is a leveling up system. It is simple here. The character gets a level, with it increases health, defense and damage and stamina, up to a certain limit. In addition, a skill point is given, which is used to open the skills themselves in 3 branches: Battle, Gather and Social skills. The Battle branch increases regular and critical damage, defense, healing effects, health, that sort of thing. The Gather branch increases your stamina, your axe and pickaxe damage, the amount of ore mined and crop harvested. The last branch, Social, increases the number of relationship points you get for different actions, payments for commissions and selling price of your items. Otherwise the branch is admittedly practically useless. That said, half of the skills in general annoy me a bit, because some of the improvement numbers are pretty tiny, like increasing damage by 12% per skill level. In a game where you are given 1 skill point per level, and the maximum level is 99, a good fucking luck getting there, duh. But the worst thing about it, of course, is the social skills. A 20% chance of getting 1 more relationship point when talking to a character at, I repeat, a maximum relationship of 1000 points. Instead of 1, it's 2, with 20% chance. You can by all means put 5 skill points in there, up to 100, but that's fucking 5 skill points. I don't get it. Is Portia an MMO to balance the player like that? There is no PvP, what's the point of that? If you do a system of skills in a single player game, then make it really useful instead of this stuff. In addition to the actual leveling, there is another way to raise the basic attributes, and it is, oddly enough, the placement of furniture in your house. Each level of the house, and there are 4 of them, has a maximum number of attributes that can be raised by installing items. Pulls man seems. Sure, you can be creative and beautifully decorate your place, but I failed. Apart from your house, there is also a workbench on your territory for crafting small items, an assembly station for crafting your furnaces, saws and other machines, as well as various items for commissions. You can place a chicken coop, a shed, and towards the end of the game a factory, which simplifies the management of production facilities. Well, and planter boxes, large and small, for your meager farming needs. The main constraint will be the lack of space, which you will have to buy up. Initially it won't cost much, but the further you go, the more expensive it gets, up to 2500,000 goals, which is kind of extreme, too fucking much if I may say so. It'll take a long time to make that kind of money, which makes the discount from being friends with Gale worthwhile. Your production, all these rolls of machines, require resources to work. The type of resources, you know, ore, relics, wood, there are a lot of that stuff, and inventory management becomes a major pain in the ass. For starters, your backpack. It's not infinite. It can and should be expanded, sure, but it costs money. The last page, and there are 3 of them, is asking 10,000 for a roll. Nuts. And there is a lot of junk, and even a huge inventory can't handle it. This is where the chests help you, starting with wooden chests for 20 slots, followed by metal chests for 30 slots. There are also safes, but you need to donate 30 items to the museum, which is kind of a big task by itself. Anyway, setting up the chests is extremely useful. Sure, 20 slots once is not enough, but the advantage of chests is that items from them are picked up by equipment, so that all of the collected junk thrown into the chest can be used without carrying it around with you. The assembly station is frustrating in this regard, up until level 3, where it becomes automatic. Basically, when you select a blueprint, you will need to place certain items to create a product from that blueprint. So those items don't just have to be in your inventory, but in your hand, otherwise you won't get anything done. It's not very convenient. In general, the entire inventory management is a wild mess in this game, keeping so many items in your inventory and constantly juggling them, and for example artifacts that you have to collect piece by piece, is sometimes annoying. As I said before, most of your products will go to the progression of the main plot. This plot is pretty lame, albeit guys were trying, there are some cutscenes with cool animations were even made. But otherwise, it's not even a plot, but just a campaign, a series of tasks coming one after another and opening new features and territories. I'm telling you, the first 3/4 of the story does not actually lead to the finale just happens. That showdown in the final part of the game happens because of an item that Petra talks about once in one of her random conversations. A brilliant setup. Oh, and the story is built into the game quite strangely. Basically you have to wait a lot. And here I'm not even talking about the machines, I'm talking about the very essence of the main tasks appearing. They appear after a certain amount of time has passed since the completion of the previous task, and by time I mean in-game days. For example, if you have completed a task, it takes 3 days for a new task to appear. At the same time, the very structure of the game assumes that you will do your own thing and progress through the game gradually, because everything is tied to it. Gaining experience to level up, making money, depleting stamina, creating materials, building new relationships, and so on and so forth. I got the impression when I installed the mods, of which I'll talk about later, that the speed of producing items and the speed of unlocking diagrams is how the game is designed for a smooth progression. For without this tedium, you'll just craft everything and then be waiting for the sun to shine. Day after day, day after day. You simply can't get through the story quickly. Is it bad? No, it's just that people who want to play this game for the sake of the plot, all this goodness will simply disappoint. But as supplemental activity to the main sandbox, yeah, it'll do. As you might have noticed from the footage, my time at Portia is pretty low budget game, for a number of reasons. Sure, the design is good, thanks to the nicely detailed characters and colorful scenery, and small details like those that appear during events. But graphically, there is nothing special here. This makes it especially surprising that being indoors, it feels like the game starts to lose frames and stop being smooth. I never understood why this happens, and I couldn't fix it. I don't know guys, post in the comments, what the fuck is this? For the most part though, the game works fine, doesn't crash or bug out, thanks for that at least. Watch and learn, Rebellion. In this game made a bunch of Chinese for a box of ramen, at least the quests aren't soft looking. However, the game still lacked polish in one particular thing, sound. First of all, like I said, the game is Chinese. It has English localization with voice acting, but the voiceover is incomplete. Some of the characters in some of dialogue are just not dubbed, So not just there is a character that is not dubbed, he is dubbed but not completely. Especially it looks funny in the cutscenes where the animations are handmade, but the characters are moving their mouths and spewing silence. I think if you do a dubbing, it's better to do a full dubbing, or not dubbing at all. Stardew didn't suffer from that, for example. If the voice actors who did certain chunks are not available, maybe you should re-record the whole thing. As I was finishing editing this video, Portia released a patch that added the missing pieces of English voiceover. I'm that slow at making videos, aren't I? Secondly, the sound effects success. This is how monsters react to damage in combat. For example, listen to the sound of combat in general. Very bad, and I, having bought the game in early access, was hoping that they would replace these sounds, that they are placeholders, but no, reality is full of disappointment. The music in the game though is pretty good, such a soothing one. It sure fits the mood of the most of the game. PC gaming wouldn't be PC gaming if there wasn't such a phenomenon as modding, and in this case, folks, there is such a thing. Obviously, there are no big mods here, this is not a Skyrim after all, but you can make some things easier for your game. Just simplify, because most of the mods are quality of life improvements. However, Portia is not the kind of game where just throw a mod in a game folder and it works. You'll need a utility called the Unity Mod Manager. It, like mods, can be downloaded from Nexus Mods website. The links I will leave in the description of the video. Anyway, download the archive with Unity Mod Manager, unpack it to a place of your choice, except the folder with the game. Choose the game and its path. If it's not automatically found, then press install. That's all, now Portia is ready to add modifications. Adding them, by the way, is simple. Just drag and drop the archive into the interface of the mod manager. The list of my mods is small and may seem like cheating, but in fact, except Socialize, they just reduce the waste of your time. Install them or not, it's up to you to decide. So, here fish. Changes the mechanics of fishing by removing the need for a fishing rod. Fish just jump into your hands, allowing you to leave the game unattended. Fish will be caught until the stamina runs out. There is a sound effect that can be turned off in the mod manager settings. Faster crafting speeds up the creation of items on machines and furnaces. Fuel consumption increases accordingly. Speed is adjusted in manager settings. Skill limit remover removes the limit of skill levels, which in some places makes leveling up useful, and in other places cheating, like that skill with a reduction of the cost of crafting. Without more skill points mod, it's almost useless, since you won't have enough points. More skill points itself increases the number of skill points you get when you level up by the number specified in the settings. There you can also give yourself some extra if you install this mod on an existing game, just don't forget to save the settings. Socialize multiplies the number of relationship points received by a multiplier in the settings. You have to be careful with it. With a multiplier of 3, relationship increase occurs with the inhabitants of Portia massively, because of the friend system. Jump and run allows you to adjust the speed of running and jump height, as well as unlock mid-air jumps. Shipping bin adds the ability to drop items for sale into a shipping crate, creating an analog of the shipping crate from Stardew Valley. The market price applies to it by default, but you can turn that off. Also, you can sell as many items as you like through this box, there is no money limit. You receive the money by the mail the next day. That's my list, quite small, but you can look on the Nexus, there are enough of such mods. Well, what can I say in the end? Look, my time at Portia is a good game. It's a nice sandbox game that's easy to play, doesn't force you to do anything without any frills, but it's well designed gameplay wise. This is a game which you turn on the evening for a couple of in-game days, to poke some monsters, talk to the locals, craft something, or to download mods just to have some fun. Precisely for fun of the process, not for the ultimate goal in the form of a story that will loom somewhere in the distance 40 hours away from you. This game is not made for quick run at all. Even the flaws in the form of some jankiness and general feel of low budget game doesn't prevent you from getting genuinely involved in a gameplay, which is nicely paced and decently balanced. Still, the $30 they're asking for it now is quite high. At a discount for 10-15 bucks, yeah, it's a great game. I absolutely recommend it to the fans of such life simulators. You'll enjoy this one a lot. That's all, thanks a lot for watching, I'll see you in the next video.